Hi, class. All right. So here's a little explanation of your project. So this is the project itself. It's a tic-tac-toe choice board, which means that I want you to make a tic-tac-toe. Everyone's going to start here in the middle with number 5. Make sure that you click the hyperlink to the directions. You'll click to the hyperlink. You'll watch this video, right, which is about analyzing literature. You can also watch the video to review the live lesson by clicking that from the other day. There's also a lesson on annotating a Google Doc that you can watch, right? So it shows you exactly how to annotate a Google Doc. And then it also has a link to the rubric, right? And we want to check out the rubric before we move on. You should always check out a rubric before you do any work because it will show you how it gets graded. And you want to have all the control and power around that. So read and annotate 2 texts, each worth 12 points. That means a total of 24 points. Multiplied by 4 is going to give us 96 points, and then 4 points if it's on time, right? So if you only do one of these, you're going to be missing enough points that it will make it a fail. So it's better to do 2 at a level 3 or a level 2 than it is to do 1 at a level 4. You'll get a higher grade in the end. And so what we're looking for is thoroughly annotated questions, observations, connections in the talks back section, summarizing the author's ideas, and putting in your own. We're looking for challenging words and concepts marked, interesting and surprising parts noted, comments show a thorough understanding of the text. And students draw a strong conclusion at the end of the passage based on facts and prior knowledge, consistent markings throughout the text, not bunched. All right, so I'm going to give an example of what this is going to look like. And instead of using one of these, so you go back to the choice board, right, after you read the directions, now you choose one of these passages. And I guess I'll take right now to give you a very short book talk on each. So most of them are short passages from longer books. In fact, all of them except for the Sherman Alexie piece are a short passage from a longer book. So number 1, and again, you'd click here to find the actual passage. It's an excerpt from a book called Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. The premise of this story is a young man is taking an elevator down from his apartment to the ground floor so that he can go out and seek revenge for the murder of his brother. And each floor gives him another thing to think about. So it's told in poetry. It's really interesting, and it's won lots of awards. All right, book 2 is also by Jason Reynolds. He's a hot young author that everybody's reading. This one is called Look Both Ways, and I haven't read this whole book yet. So this passage is just a little piece of it, and it will give you a taste of the story, and then if you're interested, you could read the whole book later. 3, With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, is about a young woman who is very into cooking. You can kind of see her passion for food there on the cover. It reminded me a little bit of like Water for Chocolate in that she includes recipes and expresses herself with food, not quite so magically. She also has a young daughter and is a teen parent, and that is part of her thing. So number 4 is Left to Tell. And Left to Tell is a biography, an autobiography by Immaculée Iligaziba. And in this one, she's talking about her experience in the Rwandan Holocaust and genocide. She hid in a bathroom from people who were trying to kill her because of the tribe she belonged to for like 7 months or something, and then she forgave them. So this is a short piece about that book, which was just fascinating. Number 6, we've got On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. This is the same author as The Hate You Give, which we read in the spring. On the Come Up is about a young woman who is an aspiring rap artist, and so you can kind of tell that on the cover. And this is, again, just the very beginning of the book, I believe. Number 7, we have The Poet X, also by Elizabeth Acevedo. This one is written in poetry, and it's delightfully told. And Elizabeth Acevedo, is one of the hot new authors. She also wrote this one. So if you did this way, you could do a book study on Elizabeth Acevedo and just read 2 of her pieces. Exactly. Okay, so this one is about a girl who's a poet and whose mom doesn't think she should be. Number 8 is a short passage from Ruby Fruit Jungle. This is by Rita Mae Brown. This is a very classic of queer literature, and as a queer person, I wanted to include one piece of literature that was written by a queer person. This doesn't actually show that part of the character. This is earlier in her life when she's a little girl, and just kind of shows how precocious she is. It's just an entertaining story, a little bit pushing some boundaries, so, you know, I'll be curious to see what you think. And this last one is the least story-like and the most essay-like. So this is Sherman Alexi's Superman and Me, and he talks about how he began to love reading by reading Superman comics. All right, so let's just say you choose the Poet X and you open this up. You're going to get another link to the video for how to annotate Google Docs if you forgot. I'm going to show you now, but if you forget, you'll be able to look at it here. And then you open up the passage, right? And what you'll do with it is make sure at least 2 annotations per page, a highlight plus a comment. And then what theme do you see? What literary devices do you notice? And what do you notice about how this is written? How does it, how does the impact? So you'll open up your document, whichever one you choose, and you'll notice that you won't be able to write on it. And you'll say, miss, why can't I write on it? It'll say viewing over here instead of editing. And what you need to do then is go up to File and click File and go to Make a Copy. Right? Once you've got this open, you'll put your name here, and that will let me know that this is your assignment. It will help us find it and help you submit it to me and help me give it a grade. And then once you've done that, you should be able to edit it. And now, when I'm looking to do some annotation, this is my technique. I take my mouse and my cursor, and I put it over whatever text I want to highlight first. The summer is made for stoop sitting, but since it's the last week before school starts, Harlem is opening its eyes to September. All right, and I'm going to highlight that yellow, and then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click to add a comment, right? And for me, instantly, I see setting, and so I would probably write something about that. All right, now, I'm not going to show you more with one of the texts that you're using for your project. I'm going to show you the one I did with the 4 skinny trees that we read the other day. So 4 skinny trees, you can see I really went in. Of course, I'm an English teacher, so it's fun for me to do this. You only have to do about a third of this to get the same point across. But again, what we're doing here is why we're not using just a set of questions is that you are going to show me what you think when you read. And what you read is going to be different than anybody else. So each of you will be giving me different annotations, even if you choose the same stories, because you are different people with different schema. So we talked about schema in the beginning, and that is the stuff you bring to you, the stuff you know already before you get to the text, and how you view it. So how I view 4 Skinny Trees by Sandra Cisneros is like this. They are the only ones who understand me. I am the only one who understands them. Here she seems to say that there's a connection between herself and the trees. She states like her claim there. 4 skinny trees with skinny necks and pointy elbows like mine. Well, this is an example. The trees are the characters, and the narrator compares herself to them. They look like her physically. 4 who do not belong here but are here. They don't belong like she feels she doesn't belong. 4 raggedy excuses planted by the city. From our room, we can hear them. But Nenny just sleeps and doesn't appreciate these things. She talks about how different she is from her sister. This is part of her character being different, seeing things that others sleep through. Their strength is their secret. They send ferocious roots beneath the ground. They grow up and they grow down and grab the earth between their hairy toes and bite the sky with violent teeth and never quit their anger. All right, so not only do they have bodies like hers, but she seems to say they have emotions like hers too. She's using personification here, which is a literary device, to give the trees human feelings, right? To make them bite the sky. I mean, trees don't have teeth, but when she uses the personification, that literary device, it really makes you feel the anger more, and you get it. All right, this is how they keep. She talks about keeping. What could that mean? To keep is to have or retain possession of. So does she mean that they keep the best of themselves to themselves, right? And oh, This keep, by the way, I used the dictionary tool when I was doing this. So you just go up to tools and there is a dictionary will pop right up and you can type in whatever word you need to look up and get a definition. And then you can think more. So Google Docs is an amazing tool to use. It has everything you need right here. You can also, in the middle of it, look up internet searches, I believe, too. I'm not sure how to do that. The dictionary, use the dictionary for sure. All right, let's keep going. Let one forget his reason for being. They'd all droop like tulips in a glass. Oh, I didn't even notice this before. Droop like tulips in a glass. Do you guys recognize that? This is a simile comparing the trees to cut flowers. All right, so why is she using it, Nan? Why? Each with their arms around the other. And notice, like I did this already last night, but as I read again, I see more. So you could do this, you could see more and more the more you read, depending on the piece you've got. Let one forget his reason for being. They'd all droop like tulips in a glass, each with their arms around the other. More personification. They are holding each other steady. Oh, so maybe the for thing is important. There needs to be more than one. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Keep, trees say when I sleep. They teach. Another personification. When I am too sad and too skinny to keep keeping. When I am too sad and too skinny to keep keeping. When I am a tiny thing against so many bricks. Oh, now this imagery, right, this image of a tiny thing against so many bricks, makes you see how small children feel and how powerless they feel. And it reminds me of a conversation I had with my 7-year-old daughter. She was just telling me last night that she thinks children need justice too, that they aren't listened to and considered, and that they should have a children's rights movement. And I thought, what an interesting point, and she seems to be saying the same thing here, that my schema, that conversation with my daughter of listening to a child, helps me see this differently than I would without that conversation, right? Now I'm imagining a tiny thing, like my daughter, pushing up against so many bricks, which are all the people and places and rules that she feels like are against her. And so obviously the narrator of Four Skinny Trees has this same feeling. Then it is, I look at the trees. All right, so when I'm feeling small, I look at the trees because they inspire her. When there is nothing left to look at on this street, four who grew despite concrete. All right, this totally reminds me of Tupac's poem. So if you were in the last live lesson, you can see how this came to be. Four who reach and do not forget to reach. Right, her language is like poetry, so much repeating words, but they have them mean slightly different things. It's just lovely. Four whose only reason is to be and be. Okay, see, ending this way makes me think maybe she's saying that the whole point is to stick around, just to be, like the trees. We grow the best we can given our condition. And some of us get better than others, but you can always keep on keeping on and just be, and that's defiance in itself. At least that's what I'm getting out of what she's saying here. All right, and I compared it to The Rose That Grew from Concrete by Tupac because this poem really echoes the meaning here, even though this is not a narrative because it's not telling a story. I guess it's telling a little bit of a story, but did you hear about the rose that grew from concrete? He talks about it like a person, right? So he's using personification. So both of these pieces use personification. Proving nature's law wrong, it learned to walk without having feet. Again, right? It says that a thing is impossible was done by this rose. Funny it seems, but by keeping its dreams, and there's that word keeping again, giving more depth to the rose. It's not just a person, it has a dream, right? It keeps its dream. It learned to breathe fresh air. All right, so fresh air seems like the most basic of rights. The author seems to be saying that the rose had to learn to get a basic right. This makes me wonder why. Long live the rose that grew from concrete, when no one else ever cared. Okay, that grew from concrete. Concrete is repeated, so I'm forced to think about it more. Why concrete? Well, it's not a place to grow things. It is hard and it doesn't let in light or air. It has literally killed people when workmen fell into the Verrazano Bridge. At least I heard they did. That's part of my schema. So he isn't being literal, of course. This is figurative language, so the concrete must be a place that is hard and unforgiving and not conducive to life. Yeah, I know places like that. And it ends when no one else ever cared. It ends with coming back to the heart of the matter. This poem is about the same thing as Four Skinny Trees, the characters that grow up in places that seem unforgiving and hard and cold, places that aren't good for children, and yet they survive. They learn to breathe fresh air to grow anyway. The theme might be there is a certain resilience that is required to grow up in unforgiving conditions. All right. This is your lesson on our project, and I really hope that you feel like you've got a handle on it, that you know what to do, and that you're going to do well. If you're at all concerned, please text me, call me, join the WhatsApp, come to office hours, ask for a special Zoom session. I am here to give you what you need to serve you and to help you and support you to get your English credits.